nice to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about provocative and controversial advertising today, and I want to start by reminding you of some ads that stirred up quite a bit of it. Remember these?
Are you strong?
I'd like to think so.
You think you could rip that shirt off of you?
I like your dress. Thanks. I mean, I really like your dress.
Hello? Yeah, this is Mark.
One thing's for certain, they got us talking about the advertising, whether or not they sell the product or whether or not you feel it's in good taste. Now there is a new wave of advertising out there that's causing quite a commotion. You may or may not be shocked by this new campaign that's raising eyebrows. These are some of the advertisements that are creating controversy within the disabled community and with the public in general. 5 of the models featured in the ads are here with us today. I'd like for you to meet them. Please welcome Joe and Renee. Very beautiful shot there. Nicole. Nicole's ad has the sensuality heading. And Doug, whose ad says, lick this. And Alicia, the heading of her ad is simply life. Now, the product that's being advertised here are wheelchairs by the company Colors. Before I talk with all of you about how this happened, what kind of response you've been getting, I want to get some response from people out here who find these ads to be not in particular good taste. Is that the problem? What's your problem with the ad?
The ad sensuality and the other one that I mentioned, or will mention passion, portray a woman, Nicole, flipped out of a chair, lying on her back in a submissive and vulnerable mode. And the first instinct that I felt was sorrow, that any woman perceives of herself as sensual or passionate by being submissive and vulnerable. I think this is the 90s, and it sets women back decades. So, and passion is power. It's not a pushover.
There are other people, including yourself, who think that your ad is the antithesis of what she just said. What do you think it says about you?
It says a lot about me. I mean, I'm a very sensual person. I love to be out of my chair. For me, I actually started doing that ad, and I was with Bebo, the photographer, and we were just doing a regular modeling shoot. And we experimented with different positions, different ways. And for me, I see my chair as part of a prop, part of a modeling. This is, for me, how I model. This is what I have. How can I make it work for me? And it's an artsy thing. It's something that I like to do.
Is that the way you get out of your chair? I don't know anyone who tips backwards and falls on their back to get out.
But is it the message that whether or not she's in a chair is irrelevant? The message is that she's a woman who's complete regardless of the chair?
The ad, you know, it said, the other one says passion, and that's the one I had the most problem with. Passion is energy and compelling strength. And lying on your back vulnerable. I don't know anyone who transfers out of their chair by flipping over backwards, and it's real difficult, I think, to get back in your chair.
But let's think of able-bodied models. How many able-bodied models do we know who get in some of the weird contorted positions they're in for advertising, too? I'll come back down here. This one is a woman who has since had her baby, and I understand everything went fine. This is Krista, whose ad Birth features her obviously in a chair with her swollen belly, kind of like Demi Moore was. Is this one okay with you? How do you feel about that one?
I think she has the right to be herself, and that's what she is. I have a problem with a woman showing her body when she's pregnant. That's a private thing. I have a disabled child. I don't like the word handicap. I have a disabled child. She can do anything. She ran for queen. This child did everything. Cheerleader. So I take my hats off to you. I think you guys are great, and you just... I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how they do it.
What is the message that I would imagine that you listen to the controversy and you say, bring it on. What's the message that you want with these advertisements? Doug?
I believe it's just the fact that we're people, and we have expressions just like anybody else, and People with disabilities can be pregnant. They can be sensual. With my ad, we can be angry as that depicts, but as you can see, I'm really not an angry person, but it's just trying to get an image across that we're people, and it's just a strive to be equal, and that's probably the sum of it right there.
You know, these ads really get people to start looking at their own stereotypes with disabled people, like how, we can see disabled people in the community and they're getting out and doing stuff, but can they have sex? Can they have relationships? Can they have children? These are things that maybe our stereotypes, our own way we've been thinking, perceiving. Suddenly these ads are showing that disabled people can be just as normal as anybody else.
The full spectrum.
Exactly.
Right. Renee, you're an able-bodied, attractive woman who is married to, girlfriend of, a disabled, attractive man. And you were in the advertisements with Joe?
Right.
What's your take on it?
Of the ads, I think they're all very, very much go-getters.
That's a sexy ad.
Yeah, they are.
Isn't it, audience? I mean, the satin sheets and the curves of the bodies together.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But I think what they're saying, and John's logo is people of colors. I think what they're trying to say is not just people of colors as in the company, but the people of individuality. And like Doug just said, there are people that can be sensual and people that can be angry and people that can be beautiful and people can be in relationships. And I've learned many, many beautiful things with Joe. And I think the most important is that there's a lot of pleasure in pleasing, and Joe has shown me that, and that's something I've never found anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, you listen to that, it's very hard to have a problem with what she said, isn't it?
It's not really a problem. The fact is that I bought a wheelchair, and the wheelchair to me is just like putting on my glasses every day. So it's not really a fact of, I like the other ads, Beat This, Birth. Sensuality to me, though, it doesn't really sell a wheelchair. If she would have done that without the wheelchair, it would have been great. But it looked like she flipped over, and she looks like she needs help. And to me, as a disabled person, that's the only thing I have to say about that.
So really, you're having a problem with the kind of advertising that you have a problem with the able-bodied community, too, not just because there's a hardware and apparatus involved.
Yeah, I was against the same Calvin Klein that you had. I thought that was offensive, and I didn't think my daughter needed to see it in that kind of advertising. But sex sells, and I mean, I purchased a wheelchair. I have a Colors wheelchair, and this was prior to me.
Well, you really have a good point. You're so right. We all know that sex sells, but when the object of sexual desire is disabled, a lot of people have very strong opinions about it. That's what we're going to get into on the show today. Later on, we're going to meet this Ralph Lauren model and a former star of Another World. We'll hear his perspective. But next, after being told time and time again by agents that she couldn't model, she set out to prove them wrong and landed a full layout in Playboy. Today on the show, disabled and sexy. We'll be right back. Talking today about a new ad campaign causing quite a lot of controversy. Some say the image of a woman with a disability in lingerie represents healthy sexuality. Others are calling it exploitive. Some people in the audience today have said that it sets women back. Joining us now is John Box, who is the owner of the wheelchair manufacturer Colors, who created this campaign, and you stand behind it. I'm sure you've really kicked up a lot of dust with this one.
Yeah.
Was that the purpose?
Actually, it was an awareness approach. People of Colors campaign was created just to identify an area of society that has been unidentified. There's been a segment of what we call the #1 sports fanatics, which are publicized, and then the opposite side of that, which is the chrome wheelchair and the hospital gown syndrome. So there was such a huge area that wasn't noticed, so we wanted to expose that. And
You were either climbing mountains and dominating the sports world, or being helpless and hopeless.
Yeah, you were either a super crip or you were nothing. So we were trying to reach in and grab some of those areas that nobody was ever paying attention to. And of course, as time has gone on, it's developed and it's getting more and more exciting.
Did you have an accident that caused your injury?
Yeah, I was in a motorcycle accident about 15 years ago.
At that moment, did you, I mean, I would imagine it's a unique experience for all of you. Did you go through that, okay, life is over for me, or did you say, I'm going to have to really readjust my approach to life?
I was raised uniquely. I'm a challenging guy. I like somebody to tell me that I can't do something, so I can do it. So maybe that you're seeing that in the People of Colors campaign. We're a great team, and it's somebody's telling me I can't do it, so we're trying to do it. So we're trying to bring things out that people aren't aware of.
When you hear the criticism of this campaign, what does that feel like?
Well, the first is, you know, it's a weakness in society, I think, that people need to take a second look. I ask everybody, look twice. If you're dissatisfied, look again, you know. And if you're still dissatisfied, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their views. We're not trying to change society. We're just trying to expose it. This is what the world is full of. I mean, just the fact that we're in chairs doesn't make a difference.
Your wife is here today, Mary?
Yes.
Hi, Mary. How are you? Can you stand and talk with me, please? How long have you two been together?
We've been together about 7 years.
So you got married after the accident?
Mm-hmm.
When you're out with him, you must perceive reactions differently than John does. What do you notice?
People look at us. I mean, they look at us as in, oh, well, she's with somebody in a wheelchair. They do. They look at us and...
Like that means what?
Like, well, why would she want to be? Or they watch us, they'll say, well, oh my gosh, she's going to have to help him take his chair out of the car. But he does it himself. Or just like when we first got married, when I first was engaged, people asked me, well, you're going to have to help him take a shower, feed him, or help him go to work. And I go, well, you guys don't know John very well. I mean...
You must find your husband to be very sexy.
Yes, I do.
I would think that's a good byproduct of this campaign. I mean, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk some more later on. Thanks, Mary. I want you to meet Ellen now. Ellen Stoll, who's the first person with a disability to pose in Playboy. Talk about breaking the barriers of what is sexy. But now, Ellen, I notice in these pictures, and I don't know if there are others, you don't see your chair.
When I did Playboy, which was, that Playboy was 9 years ago or 8 years ago, it was a while ago, the focus was on that I was a woman first and foremost. The first thing that happens when you acquire an injury, and in our society we think of disabled as them, and that's exactly what happened to me. I thought it was all over. I thought my sexuality was gone, my career was gone. The media really plays that up. You always see the person with a disability, as John said, as either the super crip or as the pathetic disabled person. And it was amazing how people treated me. They treated me like an object. There's a study that shows that there are less sex differences seen between men and women in wheelchairs than men and women walking. We are not seen as men and women. We are seen as disabled people. And that's a very small definition of who a human being is. So I wanted to focus on the fact that I was a woman. And being in Playboy is not all that being a woman is, but when you have a disability, you have to fight to be seen as a woman before you can fight for women's rights. And that's what I was doing. The candid shots in Playboy all showed.
That's an interesting point of view to me. It's like one step at a time. I wouldn't have seen that perspective on it. Yes, sir.
I think the women in the Playboy magazines look like objects anyways, and it's making it worse, that much worse.
Well, if you have a problem with Playboy, I respect that, and I have no problem with that. If you have a problem that I'm in Playboy and I have a disability, and you have a problem because of my disability, that's just outright prejudice, and that's not okay. I respect any problem with Playboy.
You want to respond? Do you want to respond to that? So you have more of a problem with just being in Playboy in general?
You know, Ellen talked about, she used a small definition. She talked about disabled people having a very small definition. And I like this because I think in America, you know, what's considered beauty is so often defined by people who have such narrow views and standards. And this is about inclusion rather than exclusion. And I salute you.
Disability is the only minority, it's the largest minority in the country, and it's the only minority that anyone can enter at any time, and most of us will. A recent study by the Institute of Medicine says, on average, every ability in their lifetime. This is not some big scary monster. This is a process of life, and we need to take it out from under the bed, show it it's not a scary monster, and that people are people, no matter what package they come in.
Beautifully said. You're uniquely positioned to talk about this because you've gotten criticism from both sides, which is fascinating to me, and I want to talk to you about it because Ellen has gone on auditions and has been told things like, well, you don't look disabled enough. And she's also gotten criticism from other people with disabilities for being as outspoken as you are, and including some of you on the panel may have some concerns about some of the choices that Ellen is making. We'll talk about it next. Discussion about a controversial ad campaign featuring provocative shots of people with disabilities in their wheelchairs. We talked about Ellen's story of several years ago being featured in Playboy magazine, which you really said you were doing deliberately to send a message.
Absolutely. It was a deliberate thing. When I was first injured, I was in a car accident, hit oil, lost control of my car. I woke up in a hospital room, and I never thought that I had stereotypes about disability. I thought that I was very open-minded and very liberal, much like most of the population saying, oh, yeah, I don't think bad things about people with disabilities. I woke up, and when they told me that I was disabled, everything I thought of being and dreamed of was gone. I thought I'll never have sex again, I'll never have a relationship again, I can never be an actress or a model again. It's over. And I didn't know where that came from. It came from our societal perceptions. We sterilized over 60,000 people with disabilities in the first half of this century. And over 600,000 people with disabilities were annihilated during the Third Reich because they didn't want them to perpetuate their illnesses on society. We have a fear of disability. We are afraid.
We do. I think a lot of people are even scared to look at people in chairs on the street. There's still, am I right? Isn't there still that kind of averting of the eyes of like you don't know what to do?
When you become disabled, it's even magnified. When I was 20 years old when I broke my back, I was serving in the Marine Corps in an auto accident, and you search for acceptance, you search for your identity, and I didn't know if I had any. You know, I didn't even know if I could get back to the gym and lift weights, something as simple as that, which I had done every day in my life for about 7 years up to that point. And when I finally realized I could do it, that changed my life. And I remember my mom telling me about Ellen being in Playboy, because at that time I was very vulnerable, very frightened that I was never going to be accepted as a normal person again. And when I saw that, it really got me psyched up, because I realized that, wow, she's exciting me, and she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
It was a deliberate statement to go out there and say, I luckily had people fight to hold on to me, and I got to realize that I was the same person after I broke my neck than I was before I broke my neck. I tried to be an art major to fulfill my creative instincts because they told me I could never model and act again. I was told not to pursue that as a career. So I went into art, but I couldn't draw before I broke my neck, and breaking my neck didn't give me any artistic talent either. Yeah. I was the same person.
John, how do you feel about Ellen's overt statement?
I say go ahead and stare, because when somebody's staring, that's a definition that there's something not quite right there with the person that's looking and learning. The child, when a child looks at something that's interesting, they stare. It's only because they're looking for more information. So that's the great thing about being here today, is we're given more information. Here we
Nicole,
are.
was it you who equated your chair to one of Cindy Crawford's best features?
Yes, her mole. This is my mole.
Yeah. I think that's very clever. Yes.
What I'd like to know, have your friends been there for you? How have they treated you since you had your accident?
Well, you learn real quickly who your friends and who your acquaintances in life.
There are a lot of people that couldn't deal with it. I had 100 people in my hospital room the first day, but the last day there were 2. A lot of people from my past have a hard time seeing me again. To me, it's, it's just to get out there and live your life. That's what we all need to do, and the chair is just...
Well, Alicia's ad is clearly a tame one. The heading is life. And I like what it says around, it's very clever advertising, John. I got to give it to you. It says, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. What's been your daring adventure, Alicia?
I don't know, probably just living my whole life. I like to do, I've got an identical twin sister, and I think that having her with me has made my whole life, I look at myself as completely normal. Right now, I'm a full-time student. I'm a waitress at a restaurant. You know, a lot of people are very impressed by that because, you know, that's something that we can all not do, the stereotypes that there is. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many of us, I have never seen anyone in a chair serve food at a restaurant. Are you good? I bet you get great tips. Oh, that's very funny. I want to talk to your sister when we come back. And also introduce you to another guest. You know him as the sexy Ralph Lauren model and former star of Another World, Mitchell Longley, and a lot more to talk about right after this. And also introduce you to another guest. You know him as the sexy Ralph Lauren model and former star of Another World, Mitchell Longley, and a lot more to talk about right after this. I started looking through magazines and mail order catalogs, and I found this one, which is, can you help me hold this? Boy, these things are big, aren't they? Okay. Now, this is the kind of advertising that you see the guy, and you barely see a little bit of his chair, and I guess that's probably what most of us are more used to, or was this was a big step at one point?
That was a huge step. That was a huge. Advertisers were afraid to use people with disabilities for fear of being called exploitive. What they've discovered is that there's a greater response to the ads using people with disabilities. People are really excited about seeing people with disabilities in everyday life, because that's what people are.
If you're advertising or selling something, you're missing out on a large portion of the public if you're not hitting with the disabled, because a lot of people are disabled. And, you know, I don't have the figures, but again, you're missing out on a large part of the population there if you're excluding the disabled.
And you can also get a broad spectrum. I think when somebody sees somebody in a chair, it might be something that it's not an unachievable goal. Like sometimes these supermodels, they look on one spectrum, but a disabled model can be on more range and a more personal thing. People can identify more as just real life. They're normal people. They look, you know, they're okay.
Well, my next guest certainly can understand the message of selling, and he has been used to do so effectively quite a number of times. With us now is actor Mitchell Longley, who had a recurring role on the NBC daytime drama Another World, and you probably know him from his Ralph Lauren ads as well. Very nice to have you here. Thanks. You're in the business. You know how it works. What do you think of all this? I mean, is this like, why is there even a controversy, or do you get it?
Well, no, I can understand why anything new is controversial. Anything that makes people initially afraid is controversial. I think that disability and the folks up here on the stage with me are forcing the American public to accept a huge population of folks that often went unnoticed. And fear is a very powerful thing. And I think the fear of disability is that everybody in this audience who's not disabled, at least physically, we represent what can happen to you as a result of getting behind a car, of getting on a motorcycle, of walking down the street.
Can I ask a question that I think is active at some level, maybe subconsciously, with I would dare to say most everybody out here, and that is, the message is somehow more powerful with people who look like you, with people who are physically attractive, with Christopher Reeve.
Right. Well, Christopher Reeve, of course, is a hero for all of us, and if he's not yet, then I hope that you reevaluate your perception of what he's been through. But the polo ad that I modeled for was not, I was invited to be a guest at a photo shoot that they had. One thing led to another, and I was asked to be fitted in some of these suits and photographed. I really did not expect or think that Ralph would end up using the photograph for his ad campaign. In fact, when he saw the pictures, he didn't know that I was disabled because the photographs are from my chest up for the most part. Mm-hmm. So he used that image for other purposes than to hire somebody with a disability. In fact, there was a college in New York City that wanted to honor him with a certificate of hiring and mainstreaming the handicapped. And they wanted me to be there, they wanted the press to be there, and he and I talked on the phone and agreed that that's probably not the best situation. It was a more powerful statement to not say anything about it, and to wait for a few years, 5 years now, for this issue to be brought up again, for it to be brought up over and over. And it's like, you know, eventually the media and the public perception of disability will change. They'll become more comfortable and embrace this community because we're all each other. And ultimately, I think that has made the statement. I mean, here's the
so
ad.
like years from now, we're saying, oh, yeah, that guy. Oh, yeah, did you know he was in a chair when he took that photo?
That's exactly how it should be. That's the scary. The controversy here isn't these ads. The controversy should be, why aren't we seeing more people with disabilities in more ads? What is the problem out there? That's the controversy. They are 10% of the population.
Let me take a quick break and tell you that when we come back, we're going to meet this actress and former beauty contestant who's now an aerobics instructor, and I bet you she's agreeing with you. We'll be back in just a sec. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. We're talking with people today who have disabilities and say that they're pretty much over the way society in general has been reacting. Kind of sick of the stereotypes, am I right? And the categorization and the little box that people's comfort levels tend to put people in because there's a chair or a crutch or some kind of apparatus. You know, the real deal is we see these disabilities on the outside, and the rest of us, you just don't see our disabilities, of course, because we can hide them much more effectively. I want you to meet Maria Sorreo. Maria is, this lady is like bundle of energy, house on fire. Your own line of exercise videos. You got into this fitness thing like there was no tomorrow.
I did. Well, there was nothing out there that would be geared toward modifying some kind of a workout, so I needed to lose 50 pounds. So I went and I searched and I figured it out.
Wait, did you need to lose the 50 pounds before you got in the chair?
No, after. Okay. And doctors, of course, said you'll never be active enough, you can't do it. So I did. I went out and lost the weight, made the tapes, and it worked out very well. But the most important thing about my tapes is there are able-bodied people working out along with me, because I don't believe we should be separated for any reason. And we shouldn't be, we're not separated in our daily lives, so we should all work together and be together. And that's why right now we're working on a script for a detective show. I'm Lady Ironside. It's Ironside of the 90s. You know, it's time to be in the full sports.
Well, all right.
It's time, you know. So that's what we're doing.
Now, talk to me about how it works in Hollywood. And Mitch, you guys can probably tell me too. For a while, there was that period of time where, okay, we need somebody in a chair. We'll go hire some beautiful, able-bodied actor, put that person in the chair. Does that still happen?
You know what's funny about that is they'll look at us and say, well, you are too good-looking to be in a disabled role, so they'll go hire a really attractive actress. So it kind of doesn't make sense, but it's getting better. They're really looking at us now because they see us doing things like videos or whatever else, and they're like, they're just normal people. They should be able to do
I have to disagree with that. It is not getting better. There's a Kirstie Alley movie coming out. Nobody read for a part in this. She plays a woman in a chair. Of course, she's the lead. You're going to hire a star. But her co-star is an able-bodied actor. There's a therapist in it who uses a chair that's an able-bodied actor. Didn't even read for the role. Didn't even get a casting.
We should be allowed to start reading for regular roles. That's what I'm fighting for. So you know what? If an actress, if you want to play somebody in a wheelchair, go for it. If I want to be a talk show host, go for it. Yeah. We're all together. I mean.
So it's not, oh, here's a part you should audition for. It's someone in a chair. Yeah.
What if somebody in a wheelchair had a part in a movie that had nothing to do with being disabled, other than the fact of they're disabled? I give credit to actors, namely Tom Cruise, born on the 4th of July. He's an actor.
Right.
And portraying somebody in a wheelchair, half of me believes is good because he's acting, and he's doing a fine job acting.
Right.
The point is, when there's other parts in the movies that can be integrated, use people in wheelchairs. It doesn't have to be the focus.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk about me being in a wheelchair. I can just be a normal person doing something in a wheelchair. And I think if they hit on that, I think it'll be more acceptance.
Absolutely. But they don't let you read. You can't get a cast. I asked my agent to send me out for the parts. My agent will send me out. The casting directors will say, but it doesn't call for a wheelchair. My agent says, it's a teacher. She can be a teacher. It doesn't have to be about the chair.
Now, Mitch, if you were to go out on an audition and the script doesn't classify any parameters, it's just a guy in your age range to have a love affair with someone in this script. Would you be considered for it?
At this time, I don't believe that most people are in the business are on that level of integrating a character, an actor with a disability into that. I still find myself only being able to read for parts that are meant for somebody in a wheelchair. But there are changes in certain ways. For example, I was just cast in a commercial where it was kind of a cattle call. They had a bunch of people come for the commercial audition, and whoever the director identified with this person to play, you know, the kind of the sexy, you know, CEO, or the, I was going to say secretary, and then I went, CEO.
Okay.
So, anyway, when I kind of just read this line, this director said, yeah, you know, you're going to be the Zen master of the office. And I said, cool.
I could see that. Yeah.
And it wasn't because he wanted a guy in a wheelchair to be the Zen master, whatever that means. He just identified my personality with that role. So that showed me that, and this was a young director. So there's a generation of young people in this business that are more open-minded. What it's going to come down to is talent. If these people want to be actors or actresses, do you have the talent that's on the same level of other people?
Well, and you know what, you said it earlier, too, is like looking at the spectrum of human nature. There are a lot of people in chairs who are real jerks and who are pains in the neck, and you don't want to be friends with them.
Well,
just like in any other...
It's a ratio.
It's a ratio, and that's what we got to get to. And like you say, it's being judged on your merits and what's in your soul.
It's more than... I mean, I'm hearing acting, but it's more than that. I mean, this campaign is about life. I mean, these people here, their everyday life isn't... All these people's lives aren't just acting.
Right.
So I challenge anybody out there to bring a disabled person into an acting career, into an engineering career, any career.
Into waitressing.
Waitressing.
Well, I still have to talk to Regina. I'll do that when we come back. Alicia's twin sister, and we'll find out about her reactions and what it's like to actually work at the same place. We'll talk next. Now, at what age were you girls when Alicia had an accident? Or
She didn't have an accident. She was born disabled.
So you've always been aware of being treated differently, or am I stereotyping?
Oh, we've been treated completely. We've been the exact same our whole life. When she was little and she was playing tennis with all the handicapped kids, I went along. I had tennis lessons from handicapped instructors.
It hasn't been the exact same our whole life, though. And she's always had more boyfriends. She's always had, you know... Yeah, and why does it have to be like that? It's because there's stereotypes.
Yeah, but then there's also, for example, we go skiing in Tahoe. I'm tumbling down the hill, almost killing myself, and watch her. She's zooming by me, you know?
Yeah. And I understand where you work, you get the better deal, Alicia. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's just because, well, the customers are impressed by it, I think.
What kind of reaction do you get? Do people ever say anything to you about your sister? I mean, I started to say not knowing you're related, but if they didn't notice that you're twins?
Well, most people notice. For example, when I'm at work and I walk by a table and they say, "You have a sister that works here?" or "Something changed since the last time I've been here?" Or, you know, they look, because we obviously look the same.
What do they say to you about her?
I get a lot of positive reactions. Everybody, I mean, she's a waitress. She's a full-time student. She does everything that any other able-bodied or any other kind of person would do, you know?
What do you think about the ads?
I think the ads are great. I think that it's really a positive thing. I think it's her self-esteem has just gone way up. It just makes her feel better about herself and more attractive. And when we go out, it's like, God, all these guys are, you know, they're all staring at me and they're trying to get me drunk. And not, you know, they're all looking at me or anything. They're, you know, here comes twins. Here comes these twins.
Is she right about your self-esteem?
Well, yeah, but I think that all this has helped it a lot, but I think that the older I get, the more I fit in with people. I think that the older I get, the more people are more understanding about it, and the wheelchair isn't the first thing they look at. It's, you know, it's me that they look at first. It's not that I can't walk.
Paige has been listening to the show, and it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we're missing the point and getting off focus a little bit in that we're talking about these advertisements being provocative, and in fact we're titling this show Disabled and Sexy. Those two don't go for you?
No, I have to disagree with Ellen in that I just don't feel that disability and sexuality have anything to do with each other. When I was disabled when I was 17. I never even thought twice about feeling insecure about my sexuality. I've always felt like a very sexual person, and I don't feel like my disability has had any impact on my sex life.
Let's talk more about this when we come back. We'll take a quick break and be right back with you. Nicole's sensuality ad, the passion ad, are you offended by them, Paige?
I am by that ad in particular. I just think it's a little bit tasteless advertising. I think it's using a woman and sex to make a profit, and I feel that they're doing so at the expense of my image, at the owner of the company's image, and at the image of our peers. And
so Alicia's ad, which is...
Not Alicia's ad.
Right, so you don't have a problem with the rest of it?
No, not at all. Alicia's ad is tasteful.
I take that ad as a form of educating the disabled public as let yourself go. Don't be so reserved. If you want to be something, be it.
I agree 100%. I feel that the ads are very tasteful and that they've actually heightened my awareness of the disabled.
I think they have a right to be normal, and that's all.
If able-bodied people can flaunt the sexuality, why not? All right. We'll be right back. You, Joe and Renee, because you represent both sides of this issue, really. Let's wrap it up with your comments.
To these ladies over here who said, first one said they felt sorry for Nicole, and one said that sexuality and disability has nothing to do with each other. That may be true, but I think in day-to-day life, in relationships, it's good to be attractive. It's good to be attracted to your mate. And I think, Joe, I don't think it gets any more beautiful than this. And when the lights are on and my eyes are open and I'm looking down at him, I think he is beautiful. And I think it's important to always feel that way about yourself. Beyond the chair, on your legs, on wheels. It's just something that you have to always keep with you.
It can probably be said, Mitch, that really the undercurrent of this whole show, for you anyway, has to do with fear.
The fear that people have when they're confronted with someone that's different than them, that's different than anything or anyone that they've been exposed to. For me, the whole thing about dealing with fear is to recognize that you're uncomfortable, that you have some anxiety about it, and not to turn away, but to turn to what's making you this way, and then to accept them, and you're going to end up walking away a little bit more evolved.
Let me get some comments as we say goodbye. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, as always, for watching. We'll see you next time. Go ahead, Ellen.
I just wanted to say that to River, we're all more alike than we are different. We have the same hopes, dreams, desires, and needs. And to realize that when obstacles come in our way, that they're really an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and those around us, and to take that and embrace that opportunity, and to live life as an adventure, always.
I just want to commend all of you, because I think that's very good that you don't let your disabilities stop you from anything, and that's great.
All right.
I personally think that the campaign, in my opinion, the campaign is geared towards educating the public that people in chairs aren't all meek. We're not all quiet. We're not all timid.
We don't represent...
We have personalities. We get angry. We are happy. We love. We live. We're like poetry, music. I mean, you name it. We have personalities. We're just like anybody else.